Around 100 years ago, Liberty in London opened. Liberty's a department store, probably my favorite department store in all the world. My name's Mark Fletcher. I'm the owner of Tower Systems, and I love looking at retail. I've been in London recently, February 2023, and got to make my probably 15th or 20th visit to Liberty. And so I want to share with you some photos about things that I learned as a retailer or picked up as a retailer from visiting Liberty. So let's get into it. When you get in on the ground floor, you can either climb the stairs or go by elevator. I like to go on the elevator because I love a bit of wood paneling, and this is what the inside of the elevator looks like. It is just gorgeous, absolutely original, wonderful, heartwarming, nurturing, and it sets you up for the Liberty experience. But you know what? This building, which is now close to 100 years old, was designed or was inspired to make it feel like a ship had docked in London. It's actually made from timber recovered from old ships. And it doesn't matter where you are in this atrium and you look around, it really does feel a bit ship-like. And that's the Liberty experience. They're giving you a very different experience in the shop. This is a very fabric-driven, very design-driven department store. But as an indie small business retailer, there are lots of things to pick up on when you look around Liberty. But the architecture is just gorgeous, absolutely fantastic. You know, they display product really well, like toothpaste. They display it in a way that's appealing, that's interesting. They connect with brands that are on trend, even though the building is very old and the store itself is over 100 years old. What they're doing here with how they display product and products that they source is just truly fantastic, very much current retail trends. You know, they have messages around, and as I said, I was there in February 2023, so it was heading into Valentine's Day. And they've got this connection around the store about finding joy. So this is finding joy within your home. And see these smiley faces, they'll come up a little bit later on, but they're using them internally within the business to connect shoppers to feeling happy and finding joy. You look at this display, you know, I was just walking past this part of the business and I thought, that's really cool. I love the way they've got the rug, then they've got the trestle tables and they're hiding those with this beautiful piece of fabric. But you know what? It's a Valentine's Day display. And it wasn't obvious to me until I had a closer look. And sure enough, you know, will you be my Valentine? They're using a greeting card as the kind of signpost of the display. And these are all items that they think people might buy from a Valentine's perspective. You gorgeous human being in front of this lion jug that they have here. You've got the body of a woman sitting on top of this Valentine's card. You know, fall in love at Liberty, as they're saying, as part of the Valentine's pitch, which I think is really cool. They've got these birds, and the way they had them situated made them look like a love heart. You know, it's really clever display. And it goes back to something else I've talked about in other videos that I've done. Even though Liberty's a massive department store, it's been around for over 100 years, it's a really big, big business. You look at that Valentine's display, and it feels like a curated selection. Somebody has thoughtfully put those items together to tell a Valentine story or to serve the Valentine shopper. It feels curated. And I think that word really, really matters when we talk about retail today. You know, they do clever things like they've got this standard cup stand, but they've displayed the product on an angle so that it's more appealing and you're drawn to it. You know, they have products placed as if they've just been left there. But you know what? They've been very thoughtfully placed there to get people to engage with them. You know, this find joy within is a really endearing and inspiring saying that they're using right now within their business. In the stationery section, you know, stationery can feel a bit boring. Greeting cards can feel boring, but they do it well. You know, they've got books displayed full face, so I don't need to touch them. But what's really clever about this is a very old book stand that they've recovered. They've put a fabric on it to make it look appealing. And so they've taken the old, covered it, and made it look fresh, which I think is a really smart move. Anybody can do that with old fixtures. Liberty do it really well. And of course, this is a Liberty design print. So they're able to kind of tell their Liberty story, if you like, as they cover old fixtures and make them more appealing. Their greeting card displays are pretty interesting as well. They look locally handmade. Nothing too special about them, but very different to what we see in a lot of card shops around Australia in particular. All the cards are full face, so I don't need to touch them if I just want to look at the front until I zone in on one, and then I can pick that up and have a look at it. I'm not only seeing the top section of a card, which I think is interesting. They're using these little banners on the side to let you know roughly the section you're in. And then when you're in a smaller section, you've got things like this little get well tag that hangs down. Engagement is another example of a tag. They're using those to draw attention without lots of noise. One of the things that Liberty does as a department store, they don't use big signs. They don't use a lot of visual noise within the business. It seems to me like they run the business on the belief that the product is the hero. And I think that's really clever, because even here, if you think about these signs here for engagement cards and wedding cards, and then think about what you see in a lot of Aussie retail settings around greeting cards, they've got signs above each column of cards. Whereas here, there's just one sign that says engagement, one sign that says wedding, which is really smart. You look at down that line there, and the signs aren't getting in the way of the product, which I think is really cool. The whole idea of falling in love in a department store is something that they are pushing, and you kind of believe it with what they do and how they do it within their business. They're clever too. So when you go to a fashion area, you're standing next to the mirror and, hey, there's this smiley face winking at you. Or somewhere else, they've put these stickers on a window smiling at you. Whereas other department stores will just have a mirror there for you to look at yourself. Here at Liberty, they're engaging in a way that's interesting. They're giving you a different retail experience. As I said, the business itself, the shop itself, feels like a ship. There's a lot of space around. When you get into different parts of the store, whether it's in homewares, you've got a display like this that's got space, it's got room to breathe, it really feels good and appealing from that point of view. And they're using space well. So they've got things hanging from the ceiling, they've got the table with beautiful cloth draped across it, absolutely looking fantastic. In another part of the store, you've got something as simple as this. They're selling the table, the chairs, the mat, or the rug. And they've got space around so that you can really get a sense of how something might look in a home setting. And then I decided to just sit down for a moment. And from where I was sitting, I was able to take this photo. So you can see up on a couple of levels. You'll notice in the corner there, you've got the draping. It just looks like a curtain. But here you've got a mannequin in the purple dress sitting down. You've got a mannequin standing in here, another mannequin here, another mannequin here. And then across in the middle, you've got a couch on the floor with a rug. And again, lots of space. It just is fantastic that they're using space in this way. And look, you could look at that and say, well, Liberty's attracting the kind of shopper who's going to spend enough money to justify that. And that may be true. But I do think that there's an opportunity for us to look at this and say, how can we create better space experiences in our business so that products have room to breathe and shoppers have room to breathe, and through that process, hopefully spending more money with us. Everywhere you go in Liberty, on all the floors, they have places for people to sit, whether it's in front of a register, in a clothing section, a shoe section, even in stationery, places for people to sit and relax and enjoy what they can see. And then you've got displays like this that just pop. So here's their partnership with Golden Goose. They've used very effectively a little bit of color. They've got the color on the table, the chairs, and it makes the product really, really stand out. I saw this from across the other side of the floor, and I was drawn across to it just to see what it was because the color really popped so much. In the kids section, they have fun. They've got a lot of products that have got prints on them. They've got this section called Trotters, which is for kids of a certain age, and really, really simple racking with the angles of the racking there. Again, giving it visual texture, being drawn in, and really encouraged to shop by looking at the products the way they're set up. It doesn't feel like a massive department store. Things feel special, things feel unique. And they're using space really well. They're telling stories by hanging things on the window like you would see in a high street retail setting, not what you would see necessarily in a department store. It feels very local. It feels very connected. Everywhere you look with Liberty, wherever possible, they're using their own fabrics, their own designs, which I think is really clever because that sits at the core of their business. And, even with something like this now, I'm not the customer for this sort of thing, but I was drawn to it because, again, you've got their fabrics in use, you've got the canopy, you've got the table setting. It feels really good and feels really appealing. And they're even using their fabrics to cover walls as a backdrop so that the products can shine in front of that. Liberty was founded by this guy, Arthur Lazenby Liberty. Now, he died before the building was finished, but down on the ground level, just near the flower shop, there is this bust of him, which just is a real treat to see, because it's a reminder that, what he started back in 1875 is pretty awesome, pretty incredible. And he said back at the time, I was determined to not follow existing fashion. And so he hasn't done that. It's not a fashion store. It's not a department store. What I found most interesting about Liberty is that this is a business that teaches us something about visual merchandising. It teaches us something about product curation, about what goes with what. Go back to that Valentine's display. A lot of that product they had within their business, and somebody has thoughtfully gone around and brought that together and created this edited range that they're offering across a table without saying and screaming Valentine's Day like so many of us do in our shops. There's a subtlety to it, and I think that's really interesting. When you walk around Liberty, one thing that I notice each time I go there is other retailers looking and taking photos, which the Liberty staff don't mind at all. And taking photos and picking up ideas. I think that's what's really clever about this. I think any retailer could go to the Liberty store, the Liberty Landmark store in London, and pick up ideas about what goes with what, about how to place product, how to give space to product, let product breathe, so that there is room for people to discover. And also the whole idea of letting people, sit down in the shop and relax and enjoy being inside the retail experience. Liberty, look, department stores, I think, are really challenged. I think they're in for a really rough ride over the next few years, if they survive at all. But I think a business like Liberty is interesting because it's different, it's fresh, it's engaging. And it goes back to kind of a common word that I use in a lot of these videos. The fact that it's offering me an experience, a curated experience. It's something that feels very fresh and different. I was in Liberty last about 5 months ago, and then just in February a few days ago. And the store's changed so much. And that's the thing, it keeps evolving. I think retail today is about us as retailers putting ourselves into our business. And that's what it feels like at Liberty, even though it's a big, massive department store. It feels personal. It feels like they've created this experience. And out of all of the department stores that I could go to in London, if I could only go to one, for sure it's going to be Liberty every time. And I think that's what we want for our own local retail businesses. If someone's coming to town and they can only go to one store in town, you want them to come to your store. And why do you want them to come to your store? Because the experience you give them helps them feel good about themselves and helps them feel good maybe about the town or the world. It's an experience that's so different, so enjoyable that they want to tell others. And I think that's my biggest takeaway from Liberty. They give you an experience that you want to share with other people. And you've got a retail winning concept when that happens. So if you get to London, have a look at Liberty. I hope you found the video interesting, and thanks for watching.